What's going on, Realm? It's Lord Addict here. This is going to be a different type of review than I normally do. For those of you that know, I review games on this channel. I play a game to the completion, and I tell you exactly how I feel about it. But there is one particular thing that I generally have always stayed away from, and that is VR. For those of you that's been following the podcast for a while, you know I'm not a fan of VR. And it's because of bad experiences with the VR. But your boy got his hands on a Quest 2. And an Oculus Quest 2 actually is the official name. And it's time that, the realm knows exactly how Addict feels about VR actually playing probably one of, if not the most popular brand of VR that's on the market right now. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to be breaking down the VR Quest 2, well, Oculus Quest 2, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. So without any further ado, if you guys like the video, definitely hit that like button. Definitely go ahead and subscribe to the Iron Lords podcast channel, the channel you're watching this on now. We go live every Sunday at 1 p.m., 11 a.m. on the football time. And without any further ado, let's review the Oculus Quest 2. What's going on, Realm? Today we're going to be reviewing the Oculus Quest 2. You guys know how I've always been in the past when it comes to any type of VR product. I'm not the biggest fan of VR in general, but I got my hands on an Oculus Quest 2 and I figured, this is the perfect time to really give the opportunity to the VR industry and see exactly, was I wrong? Was I not wrong? Is this something that I should have been looking into this entire time? Or was I right the entire time and it's not something that is for me? First thing I want to talk about really is I want to talk about the actual comfort when it comes to the Oculus Quest 2. So the Quest 2 has straps in the back that let you tighten how tight it is around your actual head, and it's got one over the top of your head that lets you tighten how it fits around your whole head in general. And I'll actually say that as far as this system, it works pretty well. I'm a pretty big guy, and plus I have glasses, so it was letting me adjust it to the way where it would fit my glasses and it would fit where it doesn't feel like it's too tight, doesn't feel like it's gonna slide off very easy. I have one of those things where if something's too tight on me, I tend to sweat a lot. And I noticed that when it wasn't adjusted correctly, I would sweat a lot and it would be a very bad experience. And for the most part, if something like that happens to you when you have the Quest 2 on, it's usually just something that you have to readjust. It's not the actual Quest 2, if that makes sense. Inside the actual Quest headset, there is clearly, the lenses that you look into. The good thing about these lenses, it's got 3 settings. So it's got 1, 2, and 3. And how it pretty much works is it works simultaneously with the actual straps that go around your head to make sure that this is as comfortable as it needs to be. Now keep in mind, if you ever put the Oculus Quest 2 on and it looks blurry a little bit, 9 times out of 10 that lens setting inside the headset needs to be adjusted a little bit. I did notice that when I first started playing it, I didn't really understand that, and I was getting headaches pretty frequently, about every 45 minutes to an hour, and I think that really solved the fear that I had in the past. The only experiences I really have with VR is at your PAXs, the E3s. They usually have a lot of VR booths where you can actually try VR. Now I would dabble in it a little bit, but I never really sat there and played like every game that was on display, but I did try some of it and I got headaches and I felt lightheaded almost immediately, kind of motion sickness. I did notice with the Quest, now I don't know if it's with everything else, but I did notice with the Quest, it actually had enough settings to where I could adjust it, and regardless how I would feel at the beginning, as long as I kept adjusting that and trying to make it fit me as a person as best as I could, it took away from that blurriness. If I was feeling like lightheaded, 9 times out of 10 it's because neither the straps were too loose and the headset was too loose, so it was coming down a little bit, or the actual lenses inside wasn't at the right caliber to actually combine with the actual strap to make sure I had a good experience with this VR headset. Now let's talk about the actual controllers for the Quest 2. They look pretty modern actually. I didn't really get that aspect where I felt like it was cheap. It felt premium. It felt like when I held it, it was weight to it. I really enjoy situations like that because there's nothing worse than buying products that you feel like when you drop, it's gonna break. And if you even do drop it, they got these little straps, kind of like the Wii, where you can strap it on your arm, and then even if you do drop this, it's not going to hit the ground. So that's always a nice safety feature that I've noticed a lot of hand peripherals have, and I appreciate that Oculus decided to make sure it was on their controllers. Now let's talk about the UI of the Oculus Quest 2. It's a pretty decent UI, and I would say that it's very responsive. I was actually really surprised by the responsiveness between the controller and the actual Quest. First thing that they ask you to do is pretty much size up what type of room you're in. They want to know what the, how tall and how long the room is. And they want you to know, like, bend down with the controller to figure out how long it is between you and the floor, so they can really get a good estimate on how big this room is that you're in. And it was pretty detailed. I gotta admit that. One of the things that I feel like VR is mistakenly has a concept with is the fact that sometimes I feel like you constantly have to be active to play these games. What I've realized when I played the Quest 2 is that's kind of inaccurate. You can actually, there is a stationary mode with the Quest 2 where you can sit in your chair. You can set it to where it's like, look, I'm in this chair. I want you to put the circle diameter around you to where as long as you're in that circle, you're going to be in the VR game or whatever the UI that you're currently on as it is. Now, keep in mind that there is a room scale one where you can draw like a square around the room or how much room you actually have, because that was one of the biggest fears I had in this. I don't have a whole lot of room. For the most part, that is always the key factor that made me not want to really be in the VR, because every time you see people play the VR on social media or anything like that on YouTube, it seemed like they was all standing. And I always felt like I'm a break some. I got too much expensive stuff in this room to be in pretty much an airport aisle. When you're in an airplane, you're going down those little tiny aisles. That's pretty much the amount of room I have in my room, considering my desk, my TV's in here. So I'm just like, look, I don't think I have enough room, but with that stationary mode, I can play pretty much every game that I've come across. I'm sure there's games that you have to be physically standing, but every game that I came across, I was able to play with that stationary mode. And the cool thing is they have these experimental settings to where you can actually physically put like furniture in there, like chairs, couches, to where you can actually sit down. And if you're in that room scale mode where you actually draw a line in the room you're in, and that circle or that diameter that you've drawn is the actual VR, as long as you're in that circle, you're going to be able to see the couch, you're going to be able to see the chair, and you can sit down pretty frequently. You don't have to like fill around like you're blind. Now keep in mind, if you do come out of the little diameter that you've set up with the room scaling, or maybe you're in stationary mode and you stand up, it's going to take you out of the VR, and it's going to give you this weird not crispy look, but it's like a weird ghost look on your room, showing some type of camera that's in front of the Oculus. I'm not a big fan of this. I always felt like maybe they should have showed like there should be a camera in the front that shows you what it's looking like, because sometimes, you just want to see what time it is or something. Well, there is a time in the actual Oculus, but I always felt like if there should be a button that I can press that I can just see what's going on, because if someone comes into my room and I can sense that they're there, I have to like go through all these hoops to actually see what's going on, or I can just take the headset off. But if you take the headset off, you actually like pause the game, kind of. I don't know. It's kind of weird how that stuff works. I do feel like they need to be a little bit better on settings like that, to where, maybe you can press a button or a hotkey or something where it automatically goes to that ghostly look, to where you can see what's in your room, just in case if someone's in there that shouldn't be in there. Maybe you have like a child running around that you got to, check where they're at. I felt like, little things like that. It's me nitpicking, but it is something that I would like for them to improve on. Now let's talk about entertainment. I feel like this is the biggest thing VR is going to shine off in the future. And not necessarily entertainment, just, that type of scenery in general, meetings at work, watching a movie, and, just pretty much anything, play Monopoly even to a point. I know that's more gaming wise, but I feel like the biggest thing that's going to really capitalize this is just watching movies with your friends, watching, UFC fights with your friends, watching E3 with your friends. I think that they need to really space this out and make sure that this is capitalized on, because I do think gaming is important, but I think they need to go more on the social aspect when it comes to VR, because I feel like a lot of their games is mainly focus on social aspects. So let's focus more on the social aspect, and then let's get those social people going in there to, to watch movies, or, watch UFC like I mentioned, watch Netflix. Let's get them to go over and play games. I feel like the social aspect should be the core. And then the games, obviously, there's some good games on the Oculus Quest 2, but I don't feel like there's any killer apps. I don't feel like there's anything that I could convince my friend off how it looks to go out and buy an Oculus Quest 2. I think that's something that they really need to focus on, and they need to focus more on making their own original titles and not necessarily just getting AAA games that's on consoles or PC and porting them over to a VR setting to put them into Oculus Quest 2 or Vive, or whatever VR for that matter, but we're talking about the Quest 2 here. For instance, I played Resident Evil 4. It's a good experience, but it's not something that I, as a Resident Evil 4 fan, was expecting when I went into the VR, because it's not exactly one for one that's in the actual Resident Evil 4. Don't get me wrong, it's a crazy experience, and it's something that I probably wasn't mentally ready to take on. So you got to look at it from a perspective of someone that maybe, they like the concept of VR, but they've never had a game that wants them to go and jump onto the VR. But Resident Evil 4 comes out, and that's a very popular game. So they went out and picked up a Quest 2 to play Resident Evil 4. And then they find out that the experience they played on the PS4, on the Xbox One, or on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, it's the same, but it's not the same at the same time. And, sometimes you can get a little motion sickness depending on how you move around, because it kind of does like these 45-degree angles every time you move. It's not like a traditional moving system, and you can put like a point and click where you would move straight to it. Now, I'm not saying it's like a horrible experience or anything. I actually think it's a fantastic experience. You actually have to like manually reload your gun. It's like on your waist, and then you have to like reach to the left to get the first aid kit and spray. Things like that's cool. It's just, I'm not saying that they don't need to do stuff like that. They obviously need to reach out to the developers and try to get more mainstream media, mainstream apps on the Oculus Quest 2 or any VR for that matter, to get more of those people to actually try the VR. But I don't think it should be the focus. It should be one of those things where you get on VR for that killer app that they made from the ground up for a VR experience, and you can buy Resident Evil 4 when you're done with that. And now, I'm not saying people didn't buy a Quest 2 for Resident Evil 4. I'm sure there's a bunch of people, but myself particular, I felt like Resident Evil 4 was the least fun I had playing the Quest 2. Let's talk about Demio. I probably butchered that name, but I will put gameplay in the background and show what I'm talking about. This is the VIP. This is the GOAT. Facebook. I'm pretty sure Facebook's the one that does Oculus. Go out and buy these developers, give them that money, because I feel like this experience is what really captivated me to give the VR space more of an opportunity. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons kind of person. I've never been. But me playing this with my friends, I saw what I had possibly been missing out on. Now, I'm not saying that this is a killer app or anything by that means, but I'm saying a few type of social interacting games like this, and you got yourself a winner. So, conclusion, I do believe VR has a future. I believe VR can actually do something great in the future. I do think that they have a long way to go, and I think the foundation to get there isn't as long as people think. But I do see companies such as Sony, companies such as Oculus, they're taking that initiative and they're making a lot of investments into that space. And I'm looking forward to the future of VR. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% sold on VR, but I will say I'm way more sold on VR than I was 2 weeks ago. But anyway, that's my review on the Oculus. Definitely hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict, Lord Addict, and definitely catch the IOP, the Iron Lords podcast. Peace.